Hey, welcome back to Gears Them Beers. I'm your host today, Joshua Boyer, and we've got actually a pretty exciting video for you today. Some big progress going to be made on the Mustang. Going to be a lot of work, but I think it is going to be much better in the end. And now I get to show you exactly what we're doing today. So we got a great package from our Wilwood, not sponsored, but make great brakes. So first off, we've got these and these things. 6-piston Wilwoods. These are obviously going front of the Mustang. Say hi to Father. He is now jacking up the car as I introduce what we are doing to this beauty today. Next is, of course, can't do the front without the rears. We got some 1-piston, much smaller, but as we've read, you actually don't need anything bigger. They actually don't make anything bigger for the rears in any big brake kit you get from Wilwood, Bear, or Brembo. It's all pretty standard to be this 1-piston in the rears and then 6-piston in the front. We did end up going with a 13-inch caliper in the front. We were discussing between a 14 and a 13. 13-inch rotor, sorry. For a 13-inch rotor, I apologize. 13-inch rotor. However, with our rim size, it was very close. The specifications for a 14 were exactly our rim size, and we did not want an issue with sizing and have to reorder another piece of equipment, which could have taken a while due to any shipping delays. So we went with a 13 just to be safe, and these things are immaculate. These are the super lights, 2-piece, and I wish they'd stay black because this is just a pretty looking piece of equipment. So, and a couple other not as important things, or as important but not as exciting, is we were also doing a hub bearing, which we figured since we're already going to be down here fixing everything, we might as well just change these out. And then as we were reading a bunch about brake fade on a track, we noticed that a lot of people are saying that brake fade comes from your brake lines as much as it does from heating up inside of your on your caliper and on your rotor. So we also decided to do front and rear braided stainless steel brake lines. Just again, we're already down here, we're already going to eliminate, we just want to eliminate as much problem as we can while we do it the first time. Obviously we might have to change some things later down the line once we start actually putting it on the track. However, these should have no issues. We actually could not find Wilwoods for the, was it the front or the rear?
The rear.
The rear. So
nobody
these,
had them in stock.
Yeah. So no one had the Wilwood set for the front or the rear. I apologize. So these are actually from a different kit, but they should work all the same. So among the exciting things that are going on today, as with the brakes and the bearing, the bearing hub bearing, sorry, is we are going to be just taking these wheels off and really getting them clean. They'll already be off for the brakes, obviously, so we're just gonna get these off. They've got some grime. They've actually got some, I don't know if it'll pick it up, but they've got some overspray from when it got painted a while ago. So we're just going to clean those up, really get the car back to how it was, and then once we actually get brakes, we can pull it out and wash it as it desperately needs. Us sitting in a garage for a certain few months did not do it justice or do it well on the paint.
All right, YouTube, we are doing a little bit of prep work, so once we are ready to assemble, everything will be good to go. As Josh was telling you in the beginning, these rotors are 2-piece. The outer rotor section, made of a much heavier iron alloy, I'm gonna guess. But the hat, the center part of the rotor, is made out of aluminum. Saves quite a bit of weight. So the idea is less weight, right? Better off we are. So a little bit disappointing that Wilwood did not send printed instructions, but they're easy enough to find online, so I guess I'm just old. Maybe that's showing my age. I like a piece of paper in my hand. So anyhow, we're getting ready to assemble these. The way it works is you have a stainless steel bolt that does go through the main rotor piece first into the hat. We're going to put some Loctite on each one of these, and then, as I'm sure you can see, because I'm old and I'm trying to see it, these bolt heads have a hole through it in order to be safety wired. The Loctite is probably enough to secure the bolts without having to worry about them coming apart, but we are going to safety wire them with some 32,000 stainless steel safety wire, pretty standard stuff, of which I have plenty lying around the shop. So we'll time lapse this a little bit because we have 4 of these to do, but at least that's the idea of what's going on. Alright, like with anything else, when you're working in a circular pattern, alternate your tightening sequence. So the torque on these is 155 inch-pounds. Wilwood makes it very clear, use an inch-pound torque wrench. Do not do the conversion of foot-pounds, or maybe what Wilwood is really saying is that somebody out there has set a foot-pound torque wrench to 155 foot-pounds, and I'm sure a few bolts actually didn't cooperate when they did that. So we're just going to snug them up, and then we'll go around with the torque wrench and set them. And I like using speed handles. That may be a little old school also. Aviation, you live with speed handles for the most part. But it keeps you from over torquing right off the bat. So, I don't know if you can see, my torque wrench is set to 155 inch-pounds, not foot-pounds, so we should be good to go. Alright, 32 thousandths stainless steel. Rather simple process. Cut off a piece. Know that, you go zoom in a little bit here. What we're going to do is we are going to safety wire pairs of bolts. Could do 3 at a time if we choose to, but I'm just going to go ahead and make it nice and simple on myself as much as anything, and just do it in pairs. We're going to make sure that the safety wire is pulling each of these bolts in a tightening direction. What it does is if that thread locker fails and they start to vibrate, they cannot loosen past the point that the safety wire is going to allow. All right, so I'm just going to find a hole that allows us to come through in a tightening direction. That one's going to be a little bit on the weak side. Get some light. There we go. Come on. These about even. Now, in order to pull to this bolt, I need to pull from this hole to that side. So I'm going to take this and come around, give it a little tug and make sure she's nice and secure. Then I'm going to get this as close to that hole as I can and give it a couple wraps to hold in place. Now I'm going to come over here, I'm going to find a hole, somewhere right in that direction. Most people probably don't have safety wire pliers lying around the house, but it's kind of nice that I do. Make this a little bit easier. Thank you. Get that wrapped nice and close. Come on over here. Find my hole, which is going to be right to there. And then you are in my light. Probably should have done this in the shop in there and good light. What do you think? There we go. Back over. Probably not my finest work ever, but it'll be all right. I'm gonna take it here. I'm gonna give it a little counter twist. Go around the world, like so. That's good and tight. That bolt's pulling in a tightening direction. That bolt's pulling in a tightening direction. Make sense? Now I'm gonna give it a good pigtail. Move that out of the way. And we are done. Okay.
One down, 400 more to go. So you saw that long process with safety wiring. This is actually the finished product where you have these paired bolts going all the way across. This is one of 4 we have to do, so it actually didn't take too long a time. Dad is very efficient at getting these done, but all are taut and this one is ready to go on. So next step over here is we're going to take the 2 bolts off of this caliper. You can see one up here, one down there. I'm also going to spray some WD-40 on these brake lines because these are the brake lines we're obviously replacing for the stainless steel braideds, and then we'll go from there. I don't know how much you guys can see of this, but I just had to clean a bird's nest out of my wheel well. This is all just bird's nest. all up in here, and I don't know how much you guys can see of this, but some bird found a very good home for their family in the Mustang, so just wanted to share. And all of that, of course, is the bird's nest. Fun times. All right, so I got both calipers disconnected. I'm now going to go ahead and start draining the brake fluid out of the whole system. We're just going to do a clean brake flush, just so we don't have old brake fluid in there. It's been sitting there for a while. Just go ahead and get everything out so we have a clean system. So I'm just going to undo this bolt right here and let it drain. Now that this is pretty much done draining, a few drips, just gonna finish taking off this line here, and then we can move forward. So the main concern, as I was talking with my dad about this, is if the bolt or this end of this line is rusted to this bolt, then you run a risk when you try to break loose this bolt of bending this line, and that's bad juju. You would rather not have to replace this line. Luckily he broke it free pretty easily, so we do not have to worry about said problem on this one, at least. Got 3 more to go. The new brake lines, which are much prettier and much better. 2 more bolts. I think these 2 bolts right here allowed us to take all of this off. So this is, I don't know if those I really want to get my hands all dirty, but here, here's this. Old pads, old caliper, and rotor and bracket. So 2 more bolts, essentially 4 bolts holding that on, and the brake line holding on the caliper. My dad is hammering right as I'm trying to talk, and it all came off. So we were that much closer to getting it. We had a slight hiccup with the brake line. The fittings for the Wilwood brake lines were slightly different than the stock. We had to Dremel out some of a spacing and a clip. I can show it to you now. This clip here, back there, needed to be dremeled out a little bit so the new fitting would fit well, or formally into it, I'll put it that way. So now we are taking the bearing off, and it's going.
I didn't think that had to come out.
And voila, with an impact wrench in hand, the 36 size bolt comes out, and
Neat job bearing. Nice and dirty.
So a quick comparison, these were aftermarket, however they were stock size to the Mustang. This is just a little size comparison. I don't want to pop it here. Is stock, and then the new 13-inch Wilwoods, much larger, much lighter. This is quite a heavy piece of metal, and this is still heavy, but much lighter because of the 2-piece, the alloy, or the aluminum inset. And just wanted to give you a quick size comparison there. Alright, you're good.
All right, after a half-hour aggravation trying to figure out exactly how to line everything up, we finally got the caliper bracket on correctly. We've got the rotor assembled correctly, and then we just went through and shimmed the bracket to make sure that the rotor is centered in between the top and bottom openings in the caliper. So we ended up having two 35 thousandths shims that we put on the back side of the bracket to shift it in a little bit, but I'm very happy with that alignment at this point.
Yeah, the camera doesn't do it justice, but even taking a step back, you can see how we're perfectly in line, and you're talking right down the middle.
Okay.
And I think we're satisfied.
Nice.
So now we're going to retake it apart
and
Loctite the bracket, because that was giving us many an issue in many different ways, and we didn't want to Loctite it before we had it completely the way we wanted it.
Yep. First things first, until the groceries.
All right, so this side is fully complete, fully done. Everything's connected. We're kind of letting gravity bleed some of the brake for us as we work on the other side, and then we'll do a full bleed. But I mean, it's an immaculate difference from this fully assembled. So what?
Second course.
So
see what happens when you overheat your brakes.
Well, now they're being replaced, and we don't have to worry about this anymore, hopefully. All right, so after a little bit, we finally got both sides done. We had a little bit of headache on the passenger side. We had a fitting where the brake line comes in, right here. The threads were, I guess, got messed up somehow, and we could not get the brake line to connect to it. We finally did get it, and we're still fighting. We were fighting a slight leak when we were bleeding them in that fitting, that same fitting, but it's mostly resolved now. I'm pretty sure we've got all the leaks figured out. We bled the brakes, and now we're spraying down the front two wheels. We're just going to scrub them up real quick, and then we'll probably save the front brakes for tomorrow, or the rear brakes for tomorrow, excuse me, and get those done. These should be much easier. We kind of know what we're doing now, as well as this is kind of a full assembly already. Not much we have to do in putting these on. It's more just a plug and play. Of course I say that, and it could go terribly wrong again. You never know. So that's where we're at, and catch you later.